So, obviously, as I've covered in 2 segments in the past week now, everything that was going on in Epping and with the Bell Hotel over there in Essex, and the genuinely remarkable protests that we were seeing outside that hotel, not just in terms of numbers, but in terms of conduct.
Yes.
And the way that all these locals have come out in a really, really sophisticated way that the whole community should be really proud of. And so I'd just like to start by talking a little bit, rounding that story out. Obviously, one of the main things was that the police, the local Essex police, first denied that they were helping to traffic anti-protesters, anti-racist protesters to the hotel. Well, it's a little harder to deny once you're caught on camera doing it.
This is just so ridiculous, this, and like heads need to roll for this. I mean, what guidelines permitted the police to do this? Because it seemed like they were quite actively trying to stir up conflict, basically. I mean, why else would they be? I think it was the reason I've seen going around is something like they're duty bound to facilitate freedom of assembly and expression, which is quite an interesting justification for basically bussing in rival groups of protesters, one of whom are local people concerned about their children, the other of whom are like state-sponsored foot soldiers, agitators, to kind of foment a conflict.
It's just meant to be a negative right, not a positive right.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, you don't have a right to be transported by the
right
police.
To be bussed by the
the
law
to your nearest demonstration.
It is an interesting interpretation of freedom of assembly. I'll give them that.
Well, this goes on to say in this article that the police have admitted escorting pro-migrant protesters to the hotel that we were just talking about, and they said, however, the force backtracked after being shown footage of the protesters being escorted. We have a reasonable duty to protect people who want to exercise their rights. In terms of bringing people to the hotel, the police have a duty to, as you say, Charlie, facilitate free assembly. We would only ever take people away from protest if we felt there was an immediate threat to people or property, to free up police resources, to protect others, or to prevent additional violence.
I have a right not to be taxed. Will the police do something about it? Will they facilitate it?
Well, I would prefer that right be enforced. I'll give you that one. I'll give you that one. So, as always, Rupert is asking the important questions here, writing to Ms. Balls, as Bo would call her. You've got questions like, who authorised the decision to escort the counter-protesters to the Bell Hotel? Why did Essex Police initially deny escorting the group? And what disciplinary action will be taken over misleading public statements? Who will be sacked? When will that decision be taken? Amongst other important questions.
Finishing, obviously, with will you commit to deporting every single illegal migrant and closing these awful hotels down for good? Because that is actually the larger issue at play here.
The larger issue. Yeah. They're not going to do that. And as Rupert even says himself there, he knows that power doesn't entirely just... That's going to be a long game thing.
For sure.
But right now, we do need all of those questions answered, as you say.
I'm willing to bet that the answer to the question, if anyone is going to get sacked, is no. Not happy with it. Just saying that I think that that's what
tends to be the way. People rarely see consequences for this sort of thing when they're acting as agents of the state. It is weird, this whole thing, because like I try and not be too sort of conspiratorial brained, right? Because I mean, I think that the conspiracies do obviously happen. In fact, that's probably the majority of politics. But at the same time, the idea that like the government is seeking to actually foment civil unrest and conflict, I find that, well, it becomes less and less hard to believe with every passing day. But like, do we, to what end would they be kind of seeking to cause that kind of thing to happen? Is it to crack down? Maybe it is. Maybe they want an excuse to crack down hard on the so-called far right. But this kind of thing that happens, when you see the police literally bussing in counter-protesters with their professionally produced placards and masks as well. That was the other thing. Like, none of the locals were masked, but the people that were bussing in were wearing masks. And that raises some eyebrows for sure. Why are they doing that? Like, what are the reason?
Yeah, I mean, there are all sorts of conjectures we could think of. I mean, it could also be very simple. These people know these particular police officers. Yeah. And, they have infiltrated within the police force. And they say, okay, right, they are our guys and we are going to transport them to the nearest demonstration
But it just shows you there's a larger point here, which I think isn't made enough, which is that there was a time where it was a article of faith as a conservative-minded person or a right-winger, or in the States a Republican, to be pro-police and to back the police kind of almost to the hilt because, they're protecting the public. It increasingly looks like they're basically agents of a hostile state that exists to oppress the indigenous people.
We covered this on the podcast yesterday. Dan did a segment talking all about the police finding themselves to be racist. And but just the fact that the English population was really the main community of England that actually allowed itself to be policed with consent.
Yep.
Right? These were your natural allies. These were the people who could help you, work alongside you to foster community cohesion. And instead you decided to basically turn your batons on them.
Yeah,
and
your high-vis jackets.
Yeah, and see them as enemies. So with everything that has been happening in Epping recently and the great victories that the people were having there, you then started having rumours swirling about online that a lot of these illegals in the Epping hotel were being moved over to the Britannia hotel. Now, I just want to say, I've not found any personal conclusive proof as to that being the case. But what we do know is that there are illegals in the Britannia Hotel at Canary Wharf. I don't know whether or not they're the same ones. I'll come back to you on that one. But this is quite the step up from the Epping Hotel. This is a 4-star hotel.
Looks nice.
It looks pretty good.
It costs a pretty penny as well.
I'll take you through some of the pictures there.
Goodness me.
Better than anything I've ever owned, I can tell you that.
Why do they have 2 chairs there?
Because sometimes you can have more than one person in a hotel room, Stelios.
Yeah. No, but usually it's one chair there.
Well, that's
the one person who sits there and is the witness.
Maybe in a
they have 2 witnesses there.
Well, maybe in a 3-star hotel, but we're dealing with the big leagues here. So one of the other interesting things about this as well is that I went to just try and book some rooms out on this to see, July, August, no availability, funnily enough. And so you get here a lot of people that it's worth going through, leaving these 1-star reviews now. Avoid this untrustworthy hotel chain. On the 9th of June, I booked and fully paid for 2 rooms, and the hotel has been taken by a large group booking all of a sudden. And there are many reviews, July, saying the same. Look, that person there says coming all the way from Italy.
Yeah.
And it's just been cancelled. So holidaygoers having their bookings terminated for the purposes, of course, of moving more and more law-breaking sea people into the United Kingdom and housing them at our expense. And of course,
it's interesting that Canary Wharf is like, obviously it is a residential area, but it's primarily offices and business, etc. But it's interesting that somewhere like that, which is, it's not exactly going to be. I can't help but think that the kind of people that would live in an area like that are not going to be the kind of people that would go out and protest this kind of thing. They're young professionals, etc. But actually, that has happened, and that's an interesting development in and of itself, I think.
Isn't it close to the city or part of the city? No, it's opposite Thames.
It's on the Thames.
Yeah, but it's right opposite the city.
I don't know about this hotel specifically,
isn't it?
But it's certainly in that area.
Yeah,
I couldn't.
So generally speaking, it's supposed to be one of the close to one of the economic centers.
Yes, yes, this is true.
Yeah.
Well, that to be honest with you, Charlie, that was one of the things that I had originally led me to believe the speculation that these people had been moved from Epping to here, because I thought as well, probably the most sensible place to move them to, London. Who's going to complain about just another broken neighbourhood in London?
Yes, quite. Yeah.
Right? You won't even notice it in the way that the tranquility of Epping was disturbed.
There is. I think this report came out either last year or the year before, so it's likely substantially higher now. But there's over 1 million illegal migrants in London right now.
Yeah.
And so it's just a drop in the bucket. Yeah, the 500 that are being kept in the in the is it
Britannia?
That's the one, the Britannia Hotel.
Yeah. So obviously, it will have no support from the local MP, ladies and gentlemen, because it's a Sparna Begum independent MP for Poplar and Limehouse, which includes Canary Wharf.
Yeah.
We are clear, refugees are welcome here. Yeah, we've heard it all before and we're kind of sick of it. At this point, let's carry on. So then Chris Rose brought up the fact that people are getting WhatsApp messages through saying that they wanted to let them know that there are recent developments regarding the relocation of asylum seekers and refugees to a nearby hotel. We understand that some of you may be feeling concerned, especially following the protests in Epping. Please rest assured...
Not to mention the sexual assaults.
Yeah, not
Love
that.
Focusing on the protests is the problem.
Please rest assured that the estate team is taking this seriously. We will be sitting down to review and discuss all our security options other than just not housing them.
Yeah.
Other than the obvious one.
Support.
Yeah. So Jack Hadfield went down there and decided to go do some reporting and speaking with a lot of the people who had come out.
Jack is a good man.
Jack
Everyone
is,
follow him.
yeah. He was also in Epping as well. We got some good reporting from him there, so keep up the good work, Jack. But you have here this woman, Nathalie, can't remember her surname. We were all ratioing her last night, and she's since deleted it.
Deary me.
Shame. But I'll just play you the first 30 seconds.
What did she say?
Well,
Okay,
I just think it's really, really important for people to understand that there are no safe and legal routes for refugees to come to this country. This is the only way they can come here. It's on a boat to pay. Yeah, they've got the whole of Europe. Why should we put that burden on the rest of Europe?
But do you not think...
I'm going to leave it there just because there's a very outraged chap
So
towards
they
the
are
end.
a burden for every other country in Europe, but not for England.
Yes. Well, towards the end, there's a chap who gets quite liberal with his see you next Tuesdays. And don't get me wrong, it was a tremendous film. You love to see it, but obviously, for the sake of YouTube, I can't be playing.
Honestly, though, I mean, I knew so many of these types. Like when I was at uni, for example, I went to a very liberal university, so these types were 10 a penny. And it always fascinates me, this, and I make this point often, it seems like, to myself. But, people like this young lady, I'm sure she's perfectly nice. Like, I don't have anything against her personally, but she clearly thinks of herself as being some kind of representative or agent for the dispossessed, the downtrodden, fighting the power, etc. When the reality of the matter is she is a foot soldier of the power structure. She is, acting as an agent of the establishment.
Pushing an open door.
Absolutely right. So she's actually the opposite of a radical. She is a regime.
She's also doing the meme, with Daenerys from Game of Thrones, where it say this is how white leftist liberals feel when they're talking about they're talking about migrants.
It's just and it's just so wild that she's a young woman and she is going to be if these people were to be moved into her neighborhood, she would be at risk. She'd be one of the people most at risk because
whether she acknowledges the risk or not,
but
doesn't change the risk.
She may do so, but I don't think she understands it.
And to be fair to her,
she's a member of the Green Party. She doesn't understand anything.
Yes, exactly. She's one of those. She's like one of those couples who wake up one day and say, "No, it's just bad conservatives who tell us that people are generally speaking aggressive. Yeah. So let's travel to the nearest cannibal tribe, and we're not going to get eaten. They get eaten every time."
and look, maybe I'm being idealistic, but like I am at a point now where I'm not actually that interested in kind of coming down hard on people like this.
No,
you just want to say to them like, look, it's not unreasonable to just recognise that what's happening to this country is just not good. It's not good for normal people.
Just get out the way.
Yeah,
move aside.
Yeah. Or just recognise that you're not evil for wanting to live in a safe country. You're not evil to recognise the reality of the fact that this country simply doesn't have the capacity for more migrants, legal or illegal, or asylum seekers or anything like that. We don't have, you walk in the streets of this country, do you think we have the infrastructure and the means to have a refugee system? Like, we're in no position to be offering asylum to anybody, whether legitimately or not.
That's correct what you're saying, but the point is, if you factor in the sort of leftist indoctrination according to which it's all the rich, and the rich is everyone is globally rich, which means that every working class person in England counts as globally rich. Let's tax them because they're bad people. So in her mind, it's it's nowhere near full capacity.
I know.
Or infrastructure pressure.
I just find it increasingly impossible to believe that these people exist, to be honest.
Well,
and I just want to appeal to them. I just want to shake them and just say, just look at what's happening around you. Like, it's just so frustrating.
You can be real.
No.
Well, the people of Britain are trapped in a very abusive prison system.
Quite.
And the jailer is people with this ideology.
Mm-hmm.
This ideology is just holding us to ransom and abuse, and has been doing for years now. Years and years. And that's perhaps why the gentleman came down so hard on her at the end.
Well, people are just sick of it.
They are.
Yeah.
They are entirely sick of it. So let's move over to talking about some more about the day unheard. Canary Wharf erupts as protesters rally against the migrant hotel plans. And as we were saying earlier, if the gamble was, house them in London, it'll all go peacefully. Miscalculation there. There. So tensions flared in Canary Wharf on Tuesday night as hundreds gathered to protest the reports used of the Britannia International Hotel to house asylum seekers, and the demonstration marked the latest in a series of anti-migrant rallies across the UK. Obviously, it goes on to talk about hot off the heels of Epping, and I also found this particular part interesting. Opposite the hotel, a swarm of live streamers and independent media reporting on events. They surrounded a 17-year-old activist called Young Bob, who won applause after calling for deportations and demanding hotel owners stopped leasing their properties to the government. He accused Reform UK of breaking its local election pledge to prevent migrants from being housed in areas where they were not wanted, arguing that constituencies should have the ability to remove migrants. Perfectly sound, perfectly reasonable.
And look at that, 17 years old.
Yeah.
As well, Maybe we should lower the voting age, Keir.
Yeah.
It is, I mean, I apologise if I'm, getting ahead here. Look, you may bring this up, but it is interesting the message that's being sent now, because the Epping protest worked, and that's the thing.
It did.
It worked. The local MP caved and, forced the illegals that were there to relocate. And the message that sends is that actually the only, and I want to be careful how I say this, but the only language that the state recognises is the threat of force, the threat, not force itself. We disavow the use of force.
We do.
But the threat of force, clearly, is all that this government recognises. And that goes in the case of the English community, but it also goes in the case of the Muslim community and the various others who have come to occupy our island. And so it's interesting how quickly that has manifested itself with this protest outside of the Canary Wharf Hotel. Because it's clear that people are realising, actually, we can actually do something about this.
Right.
People have the feeling of agency that they felt they've lacked for such a long time. And the way they do it is not at the ballot box, it's by getting out into the streets. And that's interesting.
It is.
Because that's not a good development, by the way.
No.
Like, it should be at the ballot box that we can fix these things, but people increasingly feel like it's just not viable.
No, and
the issue is that, there are all sorts of forms going out to the streets.
Yes.
Peak. Some of them are tolerable or permissible. Some of them are not. But the issue with the ballot box is that if it's once every 4 or 5 years about an overall agenda, and then for 4 or 5 years it's complete lack of participation. Then yes, the governments are going to feel considerably less pressured to deliver on their promises. So.
Yeah, and do you remember?
Obviously, there has to be a distinction between good and bad ways of.
And do you remember as well?
Being political.
I think it was earlier this year.
But it has to be more than once every 4 or 5 years.
Well, and this is the thing. I think it was earlier this year. There was that parliamentary petition to call a general election. It got millions of signatures. Obviously, didn't lead to anything.
No.
So how are people supposed to change things in between elections?
Or you could see that this is a pressure mechanism.
Yeah.
So. It wasn't going to call general elections, but it was something.
No. So then you also have the fact that I'll just scroll on to Patrick Christie's. Today, a Home Office spokesman told us that the Britannia Hotel in Canary Wharf was categorically not being used as a migrant hotel. Now it turns out that it has been taken over for use as an overflow facility. It's like, why lie about such provable lies?
I know. And we've seen what lying does. It just makes things so much worse.
Right.
In the case of Southport last year, covering up and lying, it just makes people really angry. People are already angry. It's just like throwing petrol on the fire.
All of this is born out of distrust.
Yeah.
And distrust breeds resentment, and resentment breeds hatred, right, of the system.
Yeah.
And the government, I don't even say government just meaning Labour, obviously, just governments we've had all our lives.
Yeah.
They just refuse to change in these tactics. Where's the transparency? Where's the honesty? Yeah. And obviously that's why you have very sensible positions like this from Rupert, which is illegal migrants don't need hotels in Canary Wharf. They need tents. Lots and lots of tents. Securely detain them in a tented camp on Ministry of Defence land until they can be sent home. Why is this even controversial?
Yeah, well, this was a policy that we came out with this morning, Restore Britain being us, that basically lays out the case for, it would be cheaper, safer, and more efficient to house these people on a bit of land with tents and a kind of minimum humanitarian standard. So we're not talking about letting people live in squalor, but what we are talking about is minimal food, minimal clothing, like as little as is moral to give. And it just, it would prevent these incidents where these, unvetted thug foreign men who are put up in local communities sexually assault and rape young women who live in those areas. That wouldn't be a risk, or robbery, or working illegally, whether that be actually committing crimes or as a food delivery driver. All of that is not an issue. And of course, this is a stepping stone. Like, it's not the ultimate solution to the problem, but it would at least mitigate some of the risks that are, running riot right now.
Yeah, to the local British people. And also, it's just that thing, isn't it? Like, well, good God, if you're housing them in a 4-star hotel in the middle of London with rooms like that, how quick is that going to be on TikToks, and how quick is that going to incentivize even more to come across?
Yeah, whereas the tent plan has the opposite effect. It's a deterrent.
Right. Yeah. So in that case, why even leave France? So if you want to do something constructive and helpful, I very much suggest going and joining Restore Britain, which Charlie is very much a part of.
Indeed.
The membership's been going very, very well. It's £20 a month, isn't it?
£20 a year.
£20 a year, Yep. 2 badly priced pints in the wrong pub in London.
Quite, yes.
And you can really make a difference.
That's the point.
Policy's coming together.
We were just talking about how in between elections it's very hard to put pressure on the government, but this is how you do it. I mean, Restore Britain is the vehicle that is going to... I mean, we're already changing the discourse. Like, we've already had Reform commit to being net negative immigration, which was directly as a result of our activism. So join up.
Do just that.
If you would like to watch the full uncut version that is also uncensored, head on over to lotuseaters.com to find out more.